Hey everybody, back once again. I got asked this question in a Discord, and it's something that I kind of take for granted, and it's simple enough, but before the Ethereum merge, you didn't really need to look at this tool as much as you kind of do need to now. So I'm going to briefly cover Whattomine, that's a website, kind of how to set it up, and then if you do have a couple of different rigs, how to really best set those up to keep tabs on them effectively, and then figure out what might be profitable for you to mine, and in addition to that, where to look for new proof-of-work projects to investigate to maybe spec mine. So, first off, whattomine.com. Pretty straightforward. You go there, you get a page that looks pretty much just like this. However, it's going to have 3 RX 480s set by default. What I would recommend is before you do literally anything, A, come up to this corner and switch it to dark mode, because light mode, ain't nobody got time for that. And, oh no, unfortunately it looks like that wiped out all of my specs. Anyway, yeah, so once you've switched it into dark mode, assuming you don't have a rig with 3 480s, go ahead and hit 0, deselect it, and put in what you actually have. So I'll start with this rig right here, I guess. It's actually a rig. I have 2 RX 6900 XTs. I have actually one 6800 XT, one 6800 vanilla, 2 6700 XTs, 2 6600 XTs, and they hide the regular 6600s down here. But once you've actually clicked on the graphics card name, it will start to include the hash rate. If you don't do that, it won't. So, before you do anything else, come down to cost. Now, if you are a normal person, you're paying for power. So, what I would recommend is going into your last statement and then actually calculating your total cost paid divided by the number of kilowatt hours used, and that will give you a true description of what your power cost actually is, or at least closer to what your statement says. Here in the United States, I live in the Midwest, and we have a provider called Xcel Energy. I run my cryptocurrency rigs on a time of use rate plan, which means from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. my power is really cheap, and from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. my power is ridiculously expensive. So they quote 4 cents and 18 cents for those 2 periods. However, if I do the math, I'm actually paying 7.9 cents per kilowatt hour off peak, which is the cheap rate at night, and then I'm paying 38 cents on peak during the day when I don't mine. So what I'm going to key in is 0.079, which is my off-peak power rate, and then I'm going to hit calculate. So this is taking a pretty wrong batch of numbers for AMD cards. It's never going to be perfect. All cards are different, and if you just kind of key in a garbage overclock, this is pretty close to what you're going to get. So right now you can see that I'm not profitable on anything. It's telling you this is how much you're actually netting, or I guess grossing, in that cryptocurrency based on the US dollar for today's price, and then backed out of power, essentially how much you're paying to power that rig, and then it's going to break down for all of these proof of work projects. So I'm going to key in a different set of results because I know this rig will get 407 souls on flux at 1000 watts. Sorry about that, my cats are apparently trying to kill each other. And flux was very, very down the list, but now it moved up quite a bit. So we're still not profitable, but even though the actual gross went down because my hash rate's a little lower, the power went way down, and because of that the profitability got closer to what it actually would be. So in that same vein, you can start keying in what's actually going on. Like, this is not too far off. 517 at 1100 watts, that's pretty close to what I actually observe on this thing. And if you need to get your power on an NVIDIA rig, these numbers, they're not great to use. They don't necessarily always tell you the full story, but on a 20 or 30 series card, most of the time they're close. So you can work with that. If you've set up all the power supply efficiency and overhead in your settings, this number is sometimes reasonably okay, but I'd always recommend actually using a kilowatt and figuring out exactly what your system is running power-wise, and then making sure your OCs are as dialed in as you can. This rig obviously is running a bunch of different coins because spec mining, but if you have an AMD rig, you can't use those numbers at all reliably. So this is a good one to test. I actually have a power meter on this rig and I know exactly what it takes for each one of these hash rates, but again, coming back down to, well, exactly what's going to be profitable, making sure that every one of these is as up to date as it can be with actual data from your rigs, and then that will save, ideally, normally. But let's say you've got that first rig in there and you build a second one to start spec mining. So I have another rig that I haven't keyed in yet. It's 70 Ti, or 770 Ti's. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. It doesn't actually matter if you change that to 0, but I'm going to go ahead and do that for the sake of this test. And then I have to find 3070 Ti's. So I've got 7 of those. Turn that on. And now this tab will stay up here, and I can go back and forth between, this AMD rig, which it finally saved, and my 70 Ti's. I set these up earlier, but they didn't save, and I'm not exactly sure why. But anyway, this rig, it'll be the same thing. So I know no matter which one of these algorithms, I've tuned my OCs where I know this rig is using 184 watts per GPU, and then the hash rate just sort of adjusts. So 184 times 7, 1288 watts. And each card is getting 32 mega hash. So it's 224 mega hash. You can push these a lot harder. 3070 Ti's can do 40, but it's not quite as efficient. Let's see here. I know these will do 62 souls each. So 434 souls. And this is actually, these use 170 each. So 1190. And I'm not going to do the full thing here, but this rig is on 11 cent a kilowatt hour power. And again, you can come back to it every day or multiple times a day, and you can see, well, I'm still not profitable, so I'll leave this rig off. But as soon as something comes up, you could potentially switch it on if you care about selling your crypto to pay your overhead costs. That's really the only time, in my opinion, I would ever look at something like this, but it's a really great tool to kind of figure out, like, whoa, how far in the hole am I for, like, tax reporting on power? Because reporting a loss is still important to do if you're making, a loss, but it's really something you should avoid doing in the first place. So on this 7x70 Ti rig, post Ethereum merge, it's not profitable, but if we come over to R9LR, if I keyed in my actual Caspa numbers, which is heavy hash, this would show that it's actually profitable. So let me see, this would be about 1,000 watts. These GPUs do between 5.5 and 6 mega hash per watt at the wall. So I'm really impressed with heavy hash. And yeah, we can see after I keyed that in, Caspa is now profitable because all the OCs on those Navi 2 cards, which are the most efficient for this algorithm other than maybe a 3090, the tunes really matter. And if this isn't telling you that, I don't know what would necessarily. But anyway, sorry that was a little long-winded, but again, dark mode first, then start setting up your data sets. I would do that immediately. Even if you're just mining on a GPU or two, just add a new data set for your gaming computer or for your 2 to 6 card rig, whatever it is, because then in your web browser's cache, it'll just save it. So getting accurate data, or as close as you can, is really important right now when we're talking about potentially being right on the brink of profitability or barely making anything. Obviously, if you're spec mining and you just like a project for the future, this is probably not relevant to you. But anyway, one more thing before I cancel this video. If you go to miningpoolstats.stream/new coins, this is a list, and it's not perfect, but fairly mainstream stuff that's usually listed on at least an exchange that is proof of work. Tells you what's algorithm it is, Ghost Rider is CPU, so this could be either GPU, CPU, ASIC, FPGA, but a lot of these are, if you see Kapow or BMW 512, like these are GPU mineable. X16RV2 is an ASIC. It's not ASIC resistant. This is actually the old Ravencoin algorithm. So really, we're looking at two coins, Meowcoin and Frogcoin. A lot of crypto YouTubers have covered this. I mined it a little bit. Frogcoin I'm not touching, but anyway, you could come in here, a couple times a week and just see if there's a new coin. If there is, you can do some research on it, see if the white paper looks good, see if they have a roadmap, see if it has some utility, see if it solves a problem, or if it's just a shit coin. But that's another tool you could look at potentially. But yeah, really figuring out exactly what you're paying for power, and then nailing your overclocks really matters. But there's barely anything for efficient GPUs unless you've got really cheap or free power. If you got free power, just send it. You can mine whatever coin you want and it'll be profitable. But right now, yeah, you're really grasping at straws for a lot of this stuff, and it may improve a little bit in the next 30 to 60 days, but I don't think we're going to see really profitable GPU stuff like we did a year or two ago with Ethereum for a while, or maybe ever. So either way, if you're still in it and you don't use Whattomine, that's at least a cursory and brief overview of kind of how to set it up and how to use it to get the best possible utility out of that website. So hopefully that was helpful. If not, sorry, but thanks for watching.